Good evening. Welcome to Epiphany Lutheran Church in Richmond, Virginia. I'm Kevin Barger, the Director of Music Ministry. This is our Music Minute. We're taking a look at the hymns we'll be using in worship tomorrow, Pentecost Sunday. And we'll start with one of the communion hymns. We'll have two communion hymns tomorrow. And the first is Taste and See. This was written for a church in Cincinnati. It was self-published by the composer first, and then GIA Music picked it up a little bit later. It was used for an Archdiocese choral festival in 1984, and then it became very popular. Before then, it was not really so much so. And it was based on the first 10 verses of Psalm 34. So, Taste and See. Okay. Our other communion hymn is one we've done several times before. It is For Such a Time as This. You might recall this is a Jonathan Rudman song. He was commissioned to write a song for the 2015 ELCA Worship Jubilee in Atlanta, which Philip and I were fortunate enough to attend together. That was called Called to Be a Living Voice. It was in anticipation of the 500th anniversary of the Reformation, with an emphasis on every Christian's call or vocation. And the killing of the Emanuel 9 in 2015 gave urgency to this piece that might not have otherwise existed. It's an adaptation of Esther 4:14, and the song asks, "Into what reforming time of change are we called today?" The song is written to be flexible enough that it can be in situations in and outside of the worship space in the sanctuary, and it's easily learned without printed material if you need it to be. So for such a time as this, I'm going to switch over to the piano. It'll just be a short one to get your mind back into what it sounds like and remember. Yeah, we'll switch to our other hymns for the liturgy. We'll start with our gathering hymn, O Holy Spirit, Enter In. It is Pentecost, so lots of spirit imagery we'll have this week. And this is a New Testament paraphrase of Isaiah 11:2. Michael Shermer is the author of the text, and he was born in Leipzig, and he was baptized at St. Thomas Church, which, if you remember, or even if you don't, it was the church where Bach was the cantor. Shermer's father was an inspector of wine casks, for quite the occupation there. Shermer's wife and 3 of his children predeceased him, so his life was fraught with grieving. And you will recognize the tune, I guarantee. So this is a short variation on a longer chorale tune that I'm sure you'll recognize. O Holy Spirit, enter in. A very subdued version of that wonderful chorale. Next, we're going to fast forward again to a more contemporary piece. This was a new text requested for this particular tune, Repton, in 1980. It was for a University Methodist church in Austin, Texas. And the tune comes from an oratorio, of all things, so similar to the Messiah in Handel's days. And it can be a tougher congregation to sing sometimes. However, Epiphany has done this tune, this text with the tune with several other texts and done very well. So I'm not worried at all. This is How Clear Is Our Vocation, Lord. And last but not least will be our sending hymn, God of Tempest, God of Whirlwind. This is from a Herman Stumpfli tune. He was at the former Gettysburg Seminary. It's a clear Pentecost hymn, and you'll see that Pentecost is mentioned very early on in the hymn. However, the Spirit is actually not referenced until late in the second verse. So many attributes and images of the Spirit are called out here, but what's interesting about this, kind of like the communion hymn that we sang last week, this calls out the more or the less glamorous things about the Spirit. Things such as tempest and whirlwind, blazing and burning, earthquake and thunder, passion without sleep. So the Spirit isn't always calm and demure. So we're going to go forward with another well-known tune that you will know, God of Tempest, God of Whirlwind. So wonderful hymns tomorrow to celebrate the festival of Pentecost. And we hope that you'll join us in person tomorrow so that you can feel the Spirit in person as well, 8:30 and 11 o'clock here in the sanctuary. 11 o'clock will, of course, be live streamed on our YouTube channel as always. Thanks again for joining me for this Pentecost weekend, and we'll look forward to being together again next week for the Holy Trinity. Have a great evening.